Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in to this talk called Calculators with Illustrators. I'm joined here by 3 other illustrators, and we're here to talk about the business of illustration. We're here on behalf of the Malta community of illustrators, and I'd like to start by introducing our panel members, Daniela Attard, Zack Ritchie, myself, Craig Macdonald, and Matthew Stroud. Daniela, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure thing. So my name is Daniela, but I'm fondly known as Iella. I'm UK-based. I work for Cartoon Network currently, full-time, and I also do my own illustration work in my spare time. Zack?
What's up, guys? I'm Zack. I'm a commercial illustrator, graphic designer, and I also like to take on a few personal projects.
Hi, I'm Matt, and I'm an illustrator and animator. I mainly work in children's books, with advertising, and animation for education.
And my name is Craig Macdonald. I co-founded an art studio called fit-Tazza, and I've been working in the creative industry for the best part of a decade now. To start our talk, I think it's best that we speak about where we got started. I'd like to start with Matt. We go back, we were in secondary school together, and we do have, I guess, humble beginnings of the same kind. But after we finished secondary school, where we were in the same class, how did you get started in your quest as an illustrator?
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, in secondary school, our year didn't have a choice of the arts. So kind of after that, like I knew straight away that I wanted to go into like the creative industries. So I went to MCAST and started the Access course back then, because again, I didn't have an O-level in art. I kind of worked my way up to HND, and at that time, it was just graphic design or fine arts. So graphic design was the only thing we could do. And straight up to degree, you could only do design. And kind of kept in that direction for a while. I spent like almost 2 years freelancing as a graphic designer, and wasn't great. And it wasn't for me. Like, I respect the work, but I felt I really wanted to get into storytelling, like visual storytelling.
Okay.
And I was super into animation and film.
Okay.
So I decided to do a master's in animation
Okay.
in UK at Bournemouth.
What were the first steps for you to actually kind of break into the illustration industry?
So it was in that course I kind of like found my love for illustration, because animation has all the production side. You have to do all the sketches, all the character designs, illustrations first. Like it's a long process to get to actually animating, and I kind of fell in love with that. And my story is kind of a little odd in the sense I got my first illustration job, so my first book, my first picture book, by bugging the editor at Merlin.
Persistence.
I emailed around, like whenever my portfolio was updated,
Okay.
I'd send him the updates. But eventually he had a project that kind of was a good fit for my style. And it kind of launched from there. Like I fell more and more in love with illustration and picture books, and like it slowly built up.
So you just kept going and kept trying until you kind of broke your way in.
Pretty much. I mean, I realized that kind of my style also fit the world of picture books.
Okay.
So I tried to focus in a bit. It made it a lot easier to kind of find clients that way.
So you found that it was easier to develop your style and see kind of how you can get jobs based on your style rather than adapting.
I mean, you do get to adapting eventually, but at that point, since I was still like very fresh, I kind of realized certain clients would be more interested in my work than others.
Okay.
Like before I started being able to, jump between 2 or 3 styles.
Yeah.
It made sense at that point.
Thank you. Zack,
Yes.
you, as opposed to Matthew, who's more illustration and animation, you also have a very strong graphic design background, if I'm not
Yes, I
mistaken.
do.
Is that correct? So in the nature of a graphic designer, you always need to adapt to different brands, to different guidelines, to everything. How was your experience breaking into the creative industry, as it were?
It was quite a, I would say, an impulsive kind of attempt, because I remember I was working with a company, and I just went cold turkey. I'm like, I want to leave and like do my own thing.
Okay.
And I left. I still remember, and I was like, I didn't think this through, like. So I just left, and I had to look into how to market myself. And I found that like working as a graphic designer really helped because it helped with communication. I was so used to, for example, taking on clients, like for example, we need to communicate this, that I started saying it for myself.
Yeah.
And that kind of paved the way. I mean, I had to look into getting an accountant, certain things. But yeah, I mean,
And prior to that, before you broke out into freelance work, and you were working full-time as a designer, I'm assuming, right?
yes.
What was it like getting your first job as a full-time designer?
So the first time,
Like, for any students who are just graduating, what would be like your words of advice to them to break through?
what I would recommend is like, don't be afraid, just do it. I mean, now is the perfect time to do anything. I mean, just go out and try and do it. I mean, when I had went out, I didn't, like I said, I wasn't really scared or anything. I just put myself in the situation and I had to work around it. But yeah, just go for it. I mean, there's nothing to lose.
Yeah.
The most important thing is just find one client and just really take care of them. And the rest will take care of itself.
All right. I mean, I remember visiting the MCAS student exhibition, and your work particularly stood out because I could tell from an early stage that you were taking your work very seriously.
I didn't know you were. Yeah.
And as a recruiter at the time, for me, that was a very important thing. That when you see someone that's taking their work seriously, then you know that they're going to be taking their work seriously for the long term. They're not just going to, it's not a kind of something which they build up over time. So I would say that in your case, that was something which really stood out to me.
Thanks, Craig. I really appreciate that.
Daniela, and you, because I mean, for all of us locals, working for Cartoon Network is a huge job. And it's a testament to your talent, for sure.
Thank you.
How did you get started? I mean, was Cartoon Network the first job? I mean, tell us a
Okay,
bit.
so I come from a very different background. So I started drawing when I was about 12, 13 because of a game called Neopets.
Okay.
Pretty sure a lot of people have played this game. But I went into biomedical sciences in university. I hated it. I quit 6 months in, went into art history, somehow managed to pass because I spent the 2 years drawing and developing like my style and like doing life drawing. And eventually I realized like I needed to leave Malta.
Okay.
So I did a master's degree in illustration at Kingston in London. And I ended up staying in London because I really liked being in an international place. I did a lot of things. So I would participate in game jams, I would go to live drawing, go to meetup groups. I took on as much freelance work as I could, but I really needed to find a full-time job to be able to afford living in London. So luckily, an old friend from uni that I went to remembered me, and she recommended me for an internship. I went for the internship, I had an interview, they were like, cool, come in. 7 years later, I'm still working there. So it was a case of like part luck, part hard work, part portfolio. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, but I've always kept doing my own things in my spare time. I do a lot of stuff in gaming, because I love board games and I love video games. But I also do my own personal illustration work, which is kind of creepy, kind of weird animal monster type things. But I'm always involved in projects, and I think it's very important because generally when you work project-based, you meet other people and you network as a result.
Yeah.
And it's good to have like passion for this kind of work, because otherwise you're going to need it, because it's a tough industry and things get very tough, especially if you have to pay rent or you have a family to support. Like, we have to be realistic about it. Like, it's not the easiest of careers, but it's very rewarding, I find.
I really like that you kind of broke in from an internship.
Yeah.
And this is
A paid internship, which was very important.
Yeah.
Because if it were unpaid, I would not have been able to do it. And I know that a lot of people are taken advantage of when doing unpaid internships.
Yeah.
So we have to fight for paid internships.
I mean, paid internships are definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
But I think as the level of experience you get just from an internship, I mean, it's almost testing waters to
Absolutely.
see, both for the employer and for the employee
Yeah.
at that point.
And also, I learned a lot during my internship because I didn't have a very strong design background, and that's more than half of my job is being able to
Yeah.
design things properly. So I learned that during the internship, but I still did my own thing, kind of like you do. You know, like you take a project on the side, you're like, I'm not very good in Illustrator, gonna learn a bit, and you end up bettering yourself and being a better asset for your employer,
Yeah.
for future clients.
Fantastic. So we've spoken about kind of getting in there, as it
Yeah.
were, you know, the first date,
It's tough.
you know, and then the relationship starts and
Yeah.
you kind of have to sustain it. Let's start with that. What kind of, I don't know, principles or methods have you used throughout the years to kind of keep clients happy, get more jobs, grow as an individual, promote yourself, document your work? I mean, I would say that you're very good at documenting and promoting your work.
Thank you.
What's your secret to doing that?
There's really no secret, Craig. I mean, I just really take interest. I try to kill two birds with one stone, as gruesome as it sounds. Like, I take interest. I mean, if a client has a project, I say like, okay, this is what the client would like. What can I do that would interest me and inject a bit of excitement into it and get me like really excited? So like I would get something out of it also. So that's what I try and do. But another thing that I also dedicate is I make sure I dedicate a lot of time. So some clients know what they want, but some clients, you can try and suggest some really creative ideas, but unless they actually see them, they won't know these ideas at all.
Yeah.
You can try and explain it, but they need to see them. So I dedicate quite a bit of time to get curious and explore some ideas that I have.
Okay.
And it's crazy because once you actually execute these certain ideas, people come back to you and they're like, I want that, but with my brand. Like, what if we change the direction and it's like this? They start seeing possibilities.
Yeah.
So that has really helped me as a person.
Super. And Matthew, because I mean, you, from what I can tell, you work on kind of large scale projects where you're working on a book or an animation. So, I mean, you can't really just do the whole ta-da at the end thing
Oh, no.
and hope for the best. So you really need to work hand in hand. How do you go about kind of communicating what's in mind, what's in their mind, where you're going to meet in the middle? And
Yeah, well, I mean, I think as a student, I used to have that issue. I used to love the ta-da, like, look what I did, like magic. But obviously, that does not work in the real world at all. So it's getting used to it with time. Like a lot of clients aren't great at visualizing the way we are. So we can't rely on, okay, it's going to be like this and like this, and expect them to understand. So that's where I feel like my animation background really helped, because animation has a pipeline that you have to follow. So I kind of applied that to illustration as well, which is where kind of we start off having discussions between me and the client. If it's a book, it's me, the publisher, and the writer as well. And then I'll do kind of character designs for that and sketching. And a storyboard, that's probably the most important thing. And it's either a book dummy in illustration or a storyboard in animation, but it's the exact same thing, which is like laying everything out. It can be as rough as you want it to be, but it still gives the client a much stronger indication of what to expect. And then same thing with the pipeline. You do a color pass, you do a finished version. Usually I'll take one illustration all the way through from start to finish to show them, like, this is what the finished product is going to look like. Okay. So here are the storyboards, and so you can kind of like make the connection of what hopefully you'll expect in the end.
Because that's something which I get a lot, that there's always got to be that two-way communication, but from the illustrator side or from the creative side, there needs to be that level of reassurance.
Yes.
That, listen, you're going to like the end product. Because it's all based on trust in that sense.
Exactly. Especially with these long-term products where you can spend, 3 months, 6 months going at it, they start getting like nervous along the way. Like so much time and money's been invested. So yeah, just checking in on them. It's like a relationship. Just checking in on them, see like if they're happy with what you're showing them, if they have feedback. That kind of thing. It just makes the whole relationship more comfortable. Yeah. And helps get more clients in the end as well.
Yes. Super. And Daniela, when it comes to full-time, I mean, what kind of longevity do you have with the projects?
Generally, I'm working on multiple projects at the same time,
Okay.
usually in a team, or I'll have a project assigned to myself. Something that I've learned in the past few years, which was a very difficult lesson, was just because they don't pick your work or you have to do it again, doesn't mean your work is bad. Like, it's easy to get emotional sometimes because you're like, oh, I spent ages making this, and now I have to do it all over again. It's completely fine because, again, with full-time work, you're paid a salary.
Yeah.
So, like, you're paid appropriately for the time that you are working. When it comes to freelance, it can be a lot harder because then you might not have budgeted enough time for the money you're being paid. So it's definitely harder as a freelancer to, like, accept rejection, I think. It also depends on the client. Like, in my day job, my team and, like, my boss and everyone is very nice and everyone's very accommodating. Like, if I need more time, they'll arrange for more time. With freelance work, it's a bit different because, like, you are your own boss generally, but you're dealing with the client as well. So you're spending a lot of time doing other things rather than working on an illustration piece. And so, yeah, it's different, but you learn and you improve as you go along, definitely, I think.
I mean, clients can always, it can either be like a dream or it can be a nightmare. You never really know what you're going to get. Like, Zach, are there any things that you could, I mean, we've always spoken about deposits, like initial contracts, something which binds you and the client, which kind of makes sure other ways, like, because I know that you're very good at communication with human beings, something which is, I would say, a bit of an anomaly with creatives, if I'm being perfectly honest. But other kind of things where you can really take your communication skills to the next level when dealing with a client?
So I definitely realized that over time, I'm going to be completely honest with you. When I left, I was an extremely shy boy, like super shy. And the world of freelance really matured me up. Like, and there wasn't like one day that all magic happens. I read one book, which really did help. And I practiced what the book taught me, and it really did help. That book is How to Win Friends and Influence People. An amazing book. But anyway, but time is, you just realize how important it is to create relationships with people. At the end of the day, if we had the money, if we had the amazing work, what's missing is the people, is the relationship. So formulate those things and just take care of them. And as time goes by, you just start developing a process, not to deal with people, but a process for your work.
Yeah. Super. I really like what you said about dealing with the rejection. I like what you said about nurturing those relationships. It's a big part. I really like what you said about the reassurance. And I think combining all of these, it really is a recipe to have a really strong relationship with your clients, a successful business as an illustrator. And it's about keeping it real at the end of the day. I mean, when someone comes to you for some work, ultimately they want an outcome which is beneficial to all. The illustrator wants to go away and say, I'm happy with this work. The client wants to be happy with this work. So finding that point in the middle where everyone's happy, I think, is just like dreams.
If I can add, Craig.
Yes.
I think Matt mentioned a really important thing. Also you, Daniela, that the big surprise. It's true. They might be waiting 4 months just so you can surprise them, just so you can get that feeling. It really helps when we formulate a process and we involve them in every kind of step. Because when it's a yes, it's like a checkpoint. Yes, this is fine. Yes, this is fine. You're understanding me?
Yeah.
So even in that case, like rejection, it becomes okay. Like rejection is, let's work this out. What don't you like?
It can be a big rejection and it can be a small rejection.
Exactly.
You decide how big you want to make it.
Or it could be just a misunderstanding. Like sometimes maybe the client didn't communicate well enough, or maybe you didn't have a coffee in the morning and you misunderstood. You know, it happens. So clear communication helps as well when it comes to redoing work or having a rejection kind of thing.
And I think a lot of creatives actually have a tool that comes in handy here, which is kind of putting yourself into other people's shoes, being empathetic, and understanding, like, they're under stress and they want to make sure this project is good. They put most of the weight on you, so they're expecting to be happy with the result. So that kind of mutual understanding definitely breeds good relationships.
That's fantastic. So we're going to wrap up now what has been a really lovely chat, I must say, with some behind-the-scenes footage showing a bit of the artistic process that Zack Ritchie and Daniela Attard employ when they're creating their beautiful visuals. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been Calculators with Illustrators. Sadly, we don't have any calculators here, but we can just pretend. Thank you.
What's up, people? We're about to go through the process behind 31 tips to be more creative. Step 1, the idea.
What would I like to explore? I'd like to explore illustration and type together. Okay. What limitations could I have? Maybe I'm an astronaut and I'll be talking about creativity. Okay, an astronaut talking about creativity. Let's try that.
Step 2, sketch. This is all about turning your idea into something visual. It doesn't need to be perfect, it needs to be something loose, just to give you a rough idea. So over here I'm trying to show the astronaut creating and sharing. And I wanted to show that through a series of attempts at making a paper plane. While he failed a few times, he actually managed to get the plane to fly. Step 3, inking. This is the fun part. This is where you turn your sketch and you commit to a style. It could be anything. For this approach, we're gonna go for something like line work. Straight up inking, and then we'll add a few color at the end. I'm not gonna stick to more than 3 colors. As you guys can see, I decided to go digital rather than drawing. I'm using an iPad Pro and I'm using an app called Procreate. Here we go now. So the line work is done. What we're going to do is we're going to add some colors, we're going to add some halftones, and we're going to offset the colors slightly. Step 4, share. This is the part where you compile the work together and get sharing. Share it on social, share it everywhere. One important thing to remember is you are not your work. So never take things personal. Remember to create, to share, and to adapt. Since we're on the topic of sharing, if you like what you see and you'd like to see more, visit zackritchie.com, where I share my authentic art, limited edition prints, and apparel.